introduce our moderator, who's well known to many, if not most of you, Ambassador Richard Mertv, who I'm also pleased to say is the chairman of the Board of Governors of the Middle East Institute and a senior fellow at Council of Foreign Relations. As you know, Ambassador Mertv has been ambassador to most of the places in the Middle East, it seems, and was Assistant Secretary of State for 6 years, where he dealt on it.
Next presentation is by Father Naim.
I'm very thankful for the invitation. Although it has come at a very short notice, I'm grateful that I was able to be with you and have accepted it because of the significance of this conference. I'm also privileged to have been invited as a substitute for Professor Edward Said. And although I realize that it is very difficult to be a substitute for Dr. Said, so I am very humbled by the invitation, and I pray for Dr. Said and his family and wish him well. Now the topic is future of Jerusalem. And indeed, Jerusalem has come to symbolize the heart of the conflict. It actually encapsulates the whole of the conflict. I have always maintained, and I would like to make this very clear at the outset, what happens in Jerusalem will determine whether our area of Israel and Palestine, and maybe the whole of the Middle East, will enjoy a just or unjust peace. In fact, I believe that history will judge us. It will judge the United States government, the Congress, the Senate, the United Nations, the Arab world, the Palestinians, and the Israeli government, and I would add the influential Jewish community here in the United States, by what we will do with Jerusalem and by what we will allow to be done in Jerusalem. For unless the final resolution is based on justice and fairness, it will never last, and it will contribute to a greater turmoil and bloodshed. I wanted to begin with this serious warning, especially as we approach the final status talks on the future of the city. Now, I do not speak here as a politician. I am not a politician. My best qualifications for speaking this morning are those that stem from my faith in God. I feel the need, therefore, to speak to your hearts as well as to your minds, to plead with you for the sake and well-being of Muslims, Jews, and Christians, for the sake of Israelis and Palestinians. As a person of faith, I begin with my faith in God of justice, the God of justice, the God of mercy, and the God of love. A God whom we as Christians, Jews, and Muslims believe. Now, although some of our peoples might question whether we believe in the same one God, I hold that there is no God but the one God, who is our Creator and Sustainer. The God of us all, who does not discriminate between us. The God who calls us to live justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before God. This one God has placed today, whether we like it or not, 3 communities of faith in Jerusalem: the Muslims, the Jews, and the Christians. We are there living in close proximity, and we can either continue killing each other and deny the right of the other, or share the land and share Jerusalem under God. One of the most threatening dangers today is how religion has been used and abused in the conflict back home. Is it used in the service of justice or in the service of oppression? Has religion been used in the service of the state or critiquing the unjust policies of the state? Has religion been used to honor God, the God of justice, or in promoting bigotry and discrimination? Today, as secular Zionism is generally becoming more realistic and pragmatic and become open to the principle of sharing, we are faced with a religious Zionism, which I believe in its core is a betrayal of many of the noble teachings of Judaism. Today, the dominant form of Judaism to which the Palestinians and many Jews are exposed and subjected is narrow and exclusivist, and does not lend itself to peace. I believe it must be opposed. It is deadly. It is heretical. And it is being passed as the only true form of Judaism. I maintain that we cannot ignore God in the resolution of the conflict, but not the God who extremists, whether Christians or Muslims or Jews, believe in, a bigoted and racist God, but a God who is inclusive in nature and character, and who wills that we all live in peace as brothers and sisters in this one human family. Now, I always talk about justice. That's really the main theme today for me. And when we say justice in Jerusalem, I talk about an acceptable justice. A justice that hopefully will be accepted by all the parties. And acceptable justice for me means sharing Jerusalem under the one God who we all worship. Sharing it politically and religiously. I'm thankful for what Rabbi Herzberg has said, but I would like to insist that it has to be shared not only religiously, it has to be shared politically. It can be done if we change our attitudes. We must share its sovereignty. This is justice. There is no other future that is worth contemplating if we desire peace and security. As you well know, every one of the three religions has a long past. Its adherents can speak very convincingly about its rightful claims in Jerusalem. Many conferences have been held and continue to be held where lecturers from the three faiths speak eloquently of the claims of their religion. I have personally lectured extensively on the historical, political, biblical, and theological aspects of Jerusalem. There are plenty of things to say in favor of Judaism, in favor of Islam, in favor of Christianity. I have tried, however, to emphasize the futility of trying to prove that one religion's claim is greater than the two. And I'm thankful for what Arthur Herzberg has said. Such talk cannot help us as we work for the future of Jerusalem. Indeed, in each of our long history and traditions in Jerusalem, whether as inhabitants or as rulers, we can point to things of which we are proud and to things we are or should be ashamed. I would like just to give one example. I don't want to talk about Judaism or Islam. I can only talk now about Christianity. I would like if I were able to disclaim any relationship with the Crusades. But I cannot deny the fact that they were Christians. And whenever Christians ruled Jerusalem, Jews were not allowed to stay in it. And we know what the Crusaders did to the Muslims. So we cannot look at our own Christian history without also some shame. But history has not stopped with each of our religions. What started with the Canaanite history of Jerusalem 4,000 or 5,000 years ago moved to include an ancient Israelite history. It encompassed a Christian history and then was completed by an Islamic history in Jerusalem. It is utterly insane to think or imagine that history has stopped with our own part as the climax of it all. History has created a religious mosaic in Jerusalem. The mosaic is complete in the presence of the three religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And it is incomplete if two of the religions are suppressed. From my perspective, what seems tragic today is that Israel is trying to reverse history, to undo the mosaic, to eliminate it if possible, or at least to minimize it. Israel is attempting to dominate the future unilaterally rather than to accept history, to celebrate the mosaic, and to work with the others to share a common future in Jerusalem. The tragedy today is that Israel is obsessed with its distant past and lives in the illusion that it can reinvent and recreate the glorious past. But in order to accomplish that, there is no other way except to suppress the Palestinians. And it is doing it, unfortunately, from our perspective, with the tacit approval of the United States government. The past, I am afraid, will not help us in the quest for an inclusive and pluralistic Jerusalem. Equally, the present cannot help us in our quest for a just solution. The present is very painful. It is full of injustice, oppression, frustration, fear, distrust, insecurity. Let me give you a few examples. Let me give you a picture of the Jerusalem that I lived in, and I'll be returning to it this evening. 1. The Israeli Ministerial Committee for Jerusalem Affairs, headed by Prime Minister Netanyahu, has approved recently $43 million for infrastructural development in Palestinian East Jerusalem. This will eventually run to $200 million over the next 3 years. It will be spent on Judaizing East Jerusalem, Palestinian Jerusalem. It will be used for building settlements, expanding the present ones, relocating various government organizations, all for the benefit of the Jewish people. Already, 34% of East Jerusalem is under the direct Israeli control. Israeli government is going to go on with the housing project on the Mount of Abu Ghraim, what Israel would call Har Homa, Givat Ze'ev, a settlement between Jerusalem and Ramallah, considered as part of Greater Jerusalem, is going to be expanded 20,000 more new settlers. Another point. Several extreme Jewish groups today are working tirelessly within the old city of Jerusalem. They have unlimited funding from different Israeli ministries, government ministries. they try, sometimes legally, sometimes through deception, manipulation, falsification of documents, to buy Palestinian homes. Several years ago, Atarit Kohanim, one of the most extreme of the religious groups, claimed to have owned over 70% of the Muslim quarter in the old city. Today we are hearing words that Silwan, a Palestinian town, is now focused upon because it used to be King David's city. And they're trying really to take Silwan from its people. There are indications that the Jewish settlement in Ras Al Amud, eastern entrance of the city, will go ahead as an exclusive Jewish residential area. Another point, no building permits are granted to the Palestinians. Some of them have to live in extremely crowded conditions. As a result, many of them are forced to live outside the Jerusalem municipal area. I know what I'm talking about. I have parishioners who are living out there. I have parishioners who cannot come to church on Sunday because they don't have permits and they cannot go through the checkpoints. This is the Jerusalem that I live in. And more recently, what has threatened the presence of the Palestinian community is that no less than 50,000 Palestinians who cannot afford to live within the municipal boundaries and are living outside, their ID, their residential status is being threatened. Palestinians call it ethnic cleansing, carried out not by war or massacres, but through a deliberate enactment of unjust laws. One of my parishioners, I wish we have time to tell you stories, but let me just very briefly say, one of my parishioners is living outside Jerusalem in Aram, one of the suburbs of Jerusalem. One night, a few weeks ago, somebody came rushing into the house and said, the Israeli army is looking for Palestinians who have Jerusalem IDs but are living outside Jerusalem. And this woman had to take her children out of bed, run to a safe place to visit some friends so that when the army would come in, they will not catch her and take her ID from her. The digging of tunnels. Recently, the fear for more tunnels being dug near or under the Haram area have been revived, undermining and encroaching on the religious feelings and sensitivities of Muslims. The point is, Israel can do all these things and more. It has the power. But is it just? Does it create justice? Does it create peace? Does it contribute to stability and security? I do not believe that it does. As a person of faith, I say that anything that is not founded on justice will never prevail. The ingredients of which injustice is made are so fragile and brittle, they will crumble and fall. Jerusalem will survive. But the crucial question, will Jews survive in Jerusalem if they go on to create unjust and oppressive policies? This is not only a political statement or a political question, it is also a theological question. We are working today genuinely, not only for the survival of the Jewish community, along with the Muslim and Christian communities, but for their continued life and vitality. This means carrying out a prophetic message of justice like the prophets of old. Let justice run like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. This is our work. The resolution of the conflict begins in the mind and hearts of the Israeli leadership, those people who are in power. It means accepting the Palestinians as full and equal partners in the mosaic of Jerusalem. And the old biblical commandment becomes the new commandment: love your neighbor as yourself. For Jews, this commandment must mean not only your fellow Jew, but your fellow Palestinian. And for us, it should include our fellow Jews. I would like to end. It's only on such basis that we can build Jerusalem today as a city of peace, and that's when we can all survive. It is not our past in Jerusalem that can help us. It is not our present. Our only hope is in the future. We must invent a future based on the common dream that we all share for a just peace in Jerusalem. We must allow the one inclusive, just and merciful God to work with us and through us so that we can share Jerusalem. Jerusalem must remain an open city, but two capitals for two nations on the political level, and where the three religions can enjoy equal freedom and equal legal status. This is what we are talking about. And whether some of us believe in Oslo or we don't believe in Oslo, this is the bottom line. And this is what we insist upon. It is a challenge for all of us. It is a challenge for the American Jewish community in the States to have a prophetic voice. A challenge for the American government, for the Congress, for the Senate, in playing a decisive role in creating peace based on justice. For peace will be engineered right here in Washington, D.C. Can we dare, for the sake of all of our children, to dream dreams and see visions? Let us put our hands together and let us, with the help of the one and true God whom we worship, be guided in inventing a just peace. Thank you.